Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin La'ira online smicha. The special days of the month of Adar is about to arrive, and this upcoming Shabbos is already Shabbos Mevarchim Adar. Now this year is special that we have a Shana Mubarak, so we have two Adars. And I specifically say special because in the Sichos from the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Sichos from the Rabbeim, we find two opposite approaches of how you deal with how do you prepare for Chodesh Adar? From one hand, when there's a Shana Mu'beres, there is in many sichos from the Frierdiker Rebbe where he mentions that the Rabbeim weren't too pleased, were sort of afraid from the leap years because by definition, when there's a leap year, that means there's something missing, something's lacking, and there has to be a tune-up, there has to be a fix-up. So it's a downtime. From the other hand, we find in the Rebbe's Sichos, the Rebbe turns it around. And the Rebbe says, specifically these times should be a special, happy time because we've given the powers to not only to fix it up, only dafka, due to the leap year, we have a Shana Tmima. Everything is full, everything is complete. So we have the powers to correct things that on a standard year you cannot do. So we find the two opposites of the typical explanation for a Shana Mubarak. Now the Gemara in Maseches Sanhedrin speaks about when Bezdin would, and for what reason would Bezdin make a leap year. We all know the common answer is given because Pesach has to be in Chodesh Aviv. The other Yom Tovim, each one of the Shalosh Regalim has to be in a certain season. And if the calendar, if this lunar calendar is off, the seasons will be a little off, and the Yom Tif won't match up with the season the Torah wants. Well, the Gemara actually brings other reasons, very beautiful reasons, which have lessons in life. And the Gemara says that if the roads during the winter became very choppy, very broken up, and very muddy, and it'll be difficult for people to travel to the Beis HaMikdash for Pesach, so Bezdin would feel that we'll add an extra month for the roads to settle in. If the bridges became shaky, Bezdin will add a second month just to make it easier for the Yid to come to the Beis HaMikdash. And those are the reasons that we don't usually hear, but that's what the Gemara says. This year, the Shana Mubarak is actually a very lumdish Shana Mubarak, because together with it being a leap year, it happens to be a Shnas HaShmita. And clearly the Gemara says that in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, they would never make a leap year in a Shnas HaShmita. And one of the machlekes will be showing them why not. One of the reasons is because we got to give the farmers credit that for 12 months in a year, in the year of Shemitah, it's sabbatical with them for not working in the field. If you're going to make it into a leap year, you're taking away a month of their working in the field, and that's difficult for them. So yet we find it in the times of the Gemara, and it's brought in many poskim in halachas that you would not make a Shana Mubarak in a Shnas HaShmita. This year that we are in, once the calendar was set up, Hillel even made that even in Shana Mubarak, based on his system, that even in a Shnas HaShmita there would be a Shana Mubarak. Now, the Shana Mubarak in general is a very beautiful discussion. A lot of halachas are connected to a leap year. For example, what's the real month and what's the secondary? Which is the tag along? Is the first month the most important one, or the second one? We know that Purim specifically has to be in the second one because Purim has to be closest to Pesach. Purim is in the month that's closest to Pesach. But Legabe, so many other halachas, if it's the first month is the more important one, and the second one, it's a difference for bar mitzvah. There's a difference for a yard site. There's a difference for rentals, and you have a document in the shtar. There are so many different discussions that come up in poskim about it. So I'll touch upon a couple of them, but more important, I want to speak about the drush in the things. We know that the names of the months, for example, the Gemara says, Shmois HaChadoshim Olu Miyodam Mibavel, are come from Bavel. And the Rebbe has a beautiful sikha where the Rebbe explains how could you say it's Babylonian words and it's not Hebrew, that we know that the Darshei Rishumis spoke about Elul, Anila Gaidili, and Darshei Rishumis have for many names of the months limudim, so it cannot be just foreign words. And the Rebbe in his sikha, the Rebbe says a beautiful chiddush. And the Rebbe says the words itself, the names itself, could be that they're Hebrew. Came from Eretz Yisrael. But in Bavel, the Chachamim decided which Hebrew name went for what month. All right, that's a general thing. We know there are 12 months, and now this year we're going to add a 13th month. What's the topic in Drush? The topic in Drush is every month has a horoscope, has a mazel. We all know there's Tleh, and there's Tu'umim, there's Besula. We know the month of Adar is famous because it's the mazel of Dugim. Now that we add a 13th month, is there a mazel for that 13th month? What is the mazel for the 13th month? So some actually want to say that all other horoscopes, all other mazolis are singular. Most of them are singular. It happens to be funny, the Punkt the mazel of Chodesh Adar is Dugim, is fish, plural. Why isn't it not Dug? So some say that's the proof that the Dugim, the mazel Dugim goes on both months of Adar. The Rekeach on the Torah, he actually says that the second month of Adar has no mazel, zero mazel. And he says that when Moshe Rabbeinu went to look for Yidden to fight Amalek, he says, let's find the right people, Tzei v'yilachim Amalek, and because we had to find people specifically from that period of time where mazel won't control, so they were looking for people who are born in the second month of Adar, so they should stand above mazel. So there's a debate as which mazel there is in the additional month of Adar. Another thing, there is a discussion. We know that every month of the year is corresponding to another shevet. How many shvatim are there? 12, right? 12 shvatim. So now that we're inserting extra month, who is the mazel? Who is the shevet? The extra shevet, the extra month. Who is it corresponding to? Here too, we also find a machlokes. The Mekubalim say that the extra month of Adar is the mazel of Yosef, because Yosef we find is nimshal ledagim, is compared to fish, because by Yosef there was no ayin hara, and by fish there was no ayin hara. Yosef was split into two shvatim, Menashe and Ephraim, and that's why specifically Adar has 2 months. Let's cover one small halacha. One small halacha, which is a very big controversy, but it's actually brought in Shulchan Aruch. It's not only a minig. In Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchas Tainis, Simin Tov Kuf Samaches Siv Zayin, it speaks about a yard site. This happens, many people have the shaila. They have yard site on Adar. Now, this year Adar will be 2 months. When should they commemorate, or when should they celebrate the yard site? So the Mechaber, this is a machlekes between the Mechaber and the Ramah. You want to go into it in depth, look at the Magen Avram, look at the Poskim, the other Noise Kleya Shulchan Aruch, but in general, this is the machlekes between the Mechaber and Ramah. The Mechaber says if the yard site fell out to be in Adar, and this year it's a Shana Mubaras, Yisane Ba'adar Sheni. The Mechaber holds the main month of Adar is the second month. So if it's a Shana Mubaras, you fast. For those who fast on a yard site, it's also relevant to all other things that you do on a yard site. It's only in the second month. The Ramah, however, which the Ashkenazim should follow, the Ramah says, Yisana Barishon. You should fast in the first month. And this is, again, the Magen Avram goes on to explain, you should take care of every mitzvah at the first possible time. And since the first Adar is also considered Adar, we should deal with the issues at the first month. But then the Ramah says, Miu yesh machmirim lehisames v'shneim. There are those that are machmir, and they actually fast in both. If you have a yard site, Zayin Adar, for example, they would fast on both Zayin Adars, Zayin Adar Rishon and Zayin Adar Sheni. And many people say that that's Minei Chabad too. That if anybody has a yard site, all the Inyana yard site you do in both Adars.